Hey, greetings. Michael Didier here with We Are Israel. We're going through the Torah. Last week we covered chapter 16 of Deuteronomy. Let's review it quickly, and then we'll move on to 17, 18, and maybe 19, but we'll get through 17 for sure. Last week, as I said, we did 16. We talked about the Feast of Yehovah. It starts in my New King James, verse 1, observe the month of Aviv, would have us understand because they put the definite article with month instead of Aviv. It makes it look like month of Aviv, like that's the name of a month, but we're talking about the Aviv month. Remember, Yehovah's calendar has either 12 or 13 months in it. Most years, probably 2 out of 3 years, it has 12 months in it. But remember, our months are 29 and a half day months. Sometimes they're 30 days, sometimes they're 29 days. There's no 31 days, there are no 28 day months, 29 or 30. And because of that, we have 10 to 12 days per year less in our calendar than the Roman calendar has. As a result, now and then we have to adjust the calendar, and we have a 13th month. That month that happens is when we have a 12th month that doesn't have the Aviv in it. If it doesn't have the Aviv in it, then we have we called it an Adar Bet. Second month, 12 months, second time. And that's our 13th calendar, our 13th calendar month. Happens now and then. We saw some things here that, again, I'm so discouraged sometimes with Deuteronomy because it's not crisp in the things that it says. That's the way we're going to start our chapter today, 17. We're going to see again, it's just not crisp. It says things that it ought not to say, and it contradicts the rest of the scriptures. Verse 2, look what it says. We're going to take our slaughter. Remember, we're talking about slaughter. It says sacrifice. The word is slaughter. A slaughter is something that we eat. The men eat it. Sometimes we bring it home to our families, and our families eat it. I don't think that's the case with the Passover lamb. We're going to see later on in this review of 16 that it's all our males that appear before Yehovah 3 times a year. The first one is Passover. Verse 3 talks about the unleavened bread and calls it the bread of affliction. Why is it called the bread of affliction? Bread of trouble. Bread of trouble? This is a great day for us. We're going out of the land of Egypt. Calling it the bread of affliction, it rankles me. We don't see it called that anywhere else. Look at verse 2. Therefore you shall slaughter the Passover to Yehovah thy Elohim. These are all thys in this chapter. 17 is going to be the same way, all thys. Could be an individual man. It could be Israel's seed individually. Remember, Ezrach doesn't have a plural form to it. Therefore thou shalt slaughter the Passover to Yehovah thy Elohim from the flocks of the herd. So they're adding the herds. We don't have a herd. Leviticus 12 didn't talk about a herd. In the place where Yehovah chooses to put his name. Where's that? We talked about that at length last week. It started in the middle of our camp for 40 years. Then when we crossed the river, we went to Gilgal. It was stayed in Gilgal for a long time. Then it went to Obed-Edom's for a place for 3 months. And finally got moved to Jerusalem, the city of David. Where does Yehovah put his name now? Jerusalem? No, we saw he left that place. Let's go to verse 5. Thou may not slaughter the Passover within any of thy gates, which Yehovah thy Elohim gives thee. Has Yehovah, thy Elohim, given us any gates? No. You know, the world sees you. Even if they see thy, they think it's them. Even if they're a woman. But we've got to make us men the thy. By how? Becoming his Ezra men. It happens at Passover. Remember, the Gentile leaves the kingdom of his birth, joins himself to the Ezra people, Israel, and then becomes a ger. Now at Passover, this same man is going to circumcise himself, all the men of his household, and become the Ezra. I wonder if the new Ezra gets to have his land for himself after he becomes an Ezra. I bet he does. Ooh, wouldn't that be exciting? You're going to have new gates, but you're probably going to have gates within somebody else's gates. The Ezra who brought you in to begin with. How interesting. Do we expand our territory? Yehovah often talks about expanding the sides of our tents. I think that's what's happening. Isaiah 54 seems to talk about that. The desolate man is going to have more sons than the married woman. Ooh, that's so cool. We're talking about spiritual sons. But again, within your gates, which Yehovah, your Elohim, gives you. Does anybody have gates that Yehovah, their Elohim, gave them? No. We've got gates. I say we. You know, again, he's not talking to the average person. He's not talking to 99% of the population, probably much higher than that. He's talking to the Ezra men who have left the kingdom of their birth, and he gives them. I am an Ezra man, but I don't have gates yet. Yehovah hasn't given me any land, but he's going to. I'm counting on it. So don't use this excuse, men, for not keeping a Passover. Use the excuse that you're not a ger yet, that you haven't left the kingdom of your birth and you're not ready to eat the Passover. But get ready. Leave the kingdom of your birth. Learn to live in the world as in a strange kingdom. And then at Passover, draw near, circumcise yourself, all the men of your household, and become this man. Then soon Yehovah is going to raise up a nation in a day. It'll be on Passover. Well, let's keep talking. He talks about, again, 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread. This is verse 8. And on the 7th day there shall be a sacred assembly. What about the first day? Not crisp. This is just not crisp in what it gives us for information. Now he's talking about going on and starting to count for Shavuot. Verse 9, you shall count 7 weeks for yourself. Begin to count the 7 weeks from the time you begin to put the sickle to the grain. When is that? We begin our count according to Leviticus 23 from the time we bring our first fruits to Yehovah. That's when we start the count. He's got, at this feast, just 2 verses later, look what he says. We're going to bring, in verse 10, we're going to bring a liberal gift. They said a tribute of the free will offering. Oh my gosh. Look at all the words they add. It's a free gift, a liberal gift. Bring a liberal gift. But then it says, thou shalt rejoice before Yehovah. Remember, we're talking about the Ezra man. Not talking to the Gentiles, not talking to the Egyptians, not talking to the English, not talking to any of the South Africans or the Americans, U.S. citizens. He's talking to the Ezra men. And he says, pervertedly again, thou shalt rejoice before Yehovah thy Elohim, thou and thy son and thy daughter. Thy daughter? Thy female servant? The Levite and within thy gates? Who's that? Why is there Levites within our gates? We have strangers, but they're called Ger. I don't think the ladies are there. It says 3 times a year, all your males shall appear before Yehovah. Here's one more time. Feast of Tabernacles. He's doing the same thing. And you shall rejoice. Thou shalt rejoice in thy feast. Thou and thy sons and thy daughter, thy male servants, thy female servants, the Levites. Are the servants even there? I don't even think male servants are there. But again, they have the Levite. The Levite within your gates. You know, maybe there are Levites within our gates. If we have really large gates, but it says thy gates. It doesn't say your gates. The brethren in Ephraim are going to have cities for Levites there. Is that what we're talking about? Doesn't appear to me that it is. If we're talking, listing them along with your male servants and your sons and your daughters, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Here it is. 3 times a year, all your males shall appear before Yehovah thy Elohim in the place which he chooses, at the feast of unleavened bread, Passover, the feast of weeks, the feast of tabernacles. We're going to see in Deuteronomy 31 that there's one time at the year of release, seventh year, Feast of Tabernacles, that the ladies are going to come. But it looks to me like the female servants and the male servants are staying back at home, take care of the animals, take care of the house. 3 times in Torah, we see this thing. 3 times a year, all your males shall appear before Yehovah. All thy males shall appear before Yehovah thy Elohim. Remember, it's thy. We're talking to the Ezra men. All thy males. You know, are the servants thy males? Well, I think they are. Maybe they do come. Is it possible the ladies have to take care of the sheep and the goats for a while? All right. Well, there's lots of things that we covered last week. We spent our whole day on this last week. Here's something I found interesting. Second to the last verse, 21. You shall not set up for thyself, thou shalt not set up for thyself a tree as a Ashereth. Ashereth. A tree as an Ashereth. This is a goddess. Chris and I were talking about this, the Statue of Liberty, the Mother Mary, all those statues of Mother Mary. In fact, it doesn't even say wooden image. It does say tree. Thyself, any tree. Here, let me look at it. Thou shalt not set up for thyself Ashereth of any tree, which thou make for thyself in place of an altar of Yehovah thy Elohim. He's talking to men again, thou. Is it possible that we're, instead of doing it, making ourselves an altar to Yehovah on our property, in our gates, that we're setting up this Ashereth? We're setting up pillars, because look at the next verse. You shall not set up sacred pillars, which Yehovah thy Elohim hates. Sacred pillars. These are the phallic symbols. Nimrod-related things that we have in our gates. Here, this is a verse that we talked about in 12. I thought this was interesting. He talked about the altars. They have altars. They've made altars to other Elohim. They have sacred pillars. These are the pillars that we're talking about right now in verse 22. We had the Ashtoreths. That's this one right here. Burned their Ashtoreth images. They have wooden. I don't know that wooden was there. Wooden images. It's Ashtoreth. It's Ashtoreth with fire. And then we talked about and cut down their Elohim carved images. Their Elohim's carved images. This is the busts of Lincoln, the busts of Washington. We can talk about the Lincoln Memorial. Carissa was pointing out this week, she was very troubled by what was going on. I think it was in Massachusetts. They were tearing down some of the Confederate images. Those are the Elohim that the South had during that time. I don't know why they're not doing it with the other images, but all those images got to go eventually. Israel's going to tear them down. We do not want to remember the way these people served their Elohim. Look at this in the context. Here it is. Thou shalt appoint judges. Thou, the Ezra men, shall appoint judges and officers in the gates. We're going to judge righteously. We're not going to pervert justice. We're not going to show partiality. We're not going to take bribes. We're not going to serve our Elohim the way the nations serve their Elohim. And part of the way that we do that is to get all remembrance of their Elohims out of our sight. And that's why we're tearing these down. We don't want to remember those Elohim. It's the first thing we do when we go into a country. You shall utterly destroy all the places where the nations which you shall dispossess serve their Elohim. They're gods. They're lawmakers and they're judges. It says on the high mountains, on the hills, under every green tree. Well, you know what? We do it in courtrooms. We do it in courthouses. We do it in churches. We do it all over the world. Serve their Elohim, and we're not to be a part of it. I don't feel bad about these statues going down. I say take them down. They got to go down eventually. Let's get started. All right, 17. First thing it says, look at this. Thou shalt not, they say sacrifice. We know there is no word for sacrifice in Torah, so we got to look up that word. What's the word? Here it is right here. It is slaughter. Zavik. It's something that we're going to eat. You shall not slaughter to Yehovah. I'm sorry, thou. He's talking to the Ezra men again. He's going to do it throughout the whole chapter. Thou shalt not slaughter to Yehovah thy Elohim. Remember, it's Yehovah, comma, thy Elohim. Yehovah is thy Elohim. Let's read it right. A bull or a sheep. I said to myself, a sheep? Why did they say sheep? Why not goat? Well, it doesn't say sheep, it says say. And a say is a member of a flock. And a flock is both goats and sheep. They choose sheep. We have to move beyond that. Check out the word. But now look what it says. You shall not slaughter, thou shalt not slaughter to Yehovah thy Elohim a bull or a sheep or a goat, which has any blemish or defect. What? What? If we don't know our scriptures, we are going to be misled by this erroneous statement. It leads us in a way that we should not go. He says, for that is an abomination to Yehovah thy Elohim. Oh, let's see what the rest of Torah has to say about this. Here's the verse that I did. It happens to say, let's just read it. Thou shalt not slaughter. Slaughter means that we will eat it. To Yehovah thy Elohim, a bull or a sheep and goats. That's the word say that we're talking about right there. A flock, that is a sheep or a goat. which has any blemish. There's the mum. Okay, there are times that we do not slaughter to Yehovah something that has a mum. But this is a flat out statement on all Slavic. And that's simply not true. I'm going to show you that it's not true. For that is an abomination to Yehovah. So I said this is simply not true. This verse is yet another verse in Deuteronomy that is just not crisp, and which, if taken by itself, will lead men in a way they should not go. The thou is the Ezrach. What about the ger? Thou shall not slaughter. What about the ger? Can he do it? What about this? Remember, we're talking about a slaughter. A slaughter. So what about a burnt offering? Something that we don't eat. What about a kata'ah? Something that we're going to bring as a sin to, what else should I say? We're going to bring as a sin korban. For sin. A korban for sin, drawing near to Yehovah for the sin that we committed unintentionally. What about an Hashem offering? It doesn't talk about anything, it just says sacrifice. Well, right away, just because it's a sacrifice, now every animal that we do falls into this, doesn't it? At least if we say slaughter, we know what we're talking about. But a slaughtered shalamim has no such requirement on it. We're going to talk about the vow, and we're going to talk about a free will offering. They do and can have some caveats on them. Have some things where one of them you have to use. You can't have something that has a mum on it. One you can. We've got to understand the difference. But again, to put it all and lump it all in a statement like this, it's not right. It's just not right. Let me show you. This is, where is this? This is long, but this is Leviticus 22. He says, speak to Aaron and his sons and to all Israel's seed, the Ezra men, and say to them, any man, ish, from Israel's house or the ger in Israel, who brings his korban, his offering, for any of his vows. Okay, for a vow now. This is a vow. A nadar. Or a free will. This is a nedabah, which they bring to Yehovah as an olah. So we're bringing a korban. This is not a slaughter. Not what they're calling a sacrifice up here at the top. It's not a slaughter because it's being used as an olah. Nobody's going to eat it. Not even the priests are going to eat this. The priests will get the skin. That's it. You shall bring it up. You shall bring by your own free will a male, whole and alive. Okay, that's tamim. Has nothing to do with mum, without blemish. From the cattle, from the sheep, from the goats. Okay, that's all correct. Whatever has a defect, a mum, you shall not bring, for it shall not be accepted on your behalf. Remember, we're talking about two kinds of offerings. This one right here, the vow, the nadar, or the nedabah, which is the free will offering. They both normally are slaughters, but these are being used as an olah. So, he says, whatever has a defect you shall not bring, for it shall not be accepted on your behalf. And if a man brings a slaughter, shalamim, a slaughtered shalamim, okay, this is the one that we're going to eat. As to accomplish a vow, here it is a nadah, or a free will, nedabah. Again, this is not just a normal shalamim. This is for a vow or a free will. Look what it says. In beeves, in flocks. There they use the word za'on, in flocks, sheep and goats. It must be whole, tamim, to be accepted. But now he says, it must be completely without blemish. So here's something that's tamim and without blemish. But remember, we're talking about the vow, the nedar, and the nedabah, the free will offering. There it is, nedabah. He says, those that are blind or broken or maimed or have an ulcer or eczema or scabs, you shall not bring these to Yehovah and burn them on the altar to Yehovah. Either a bull or a sheep or a goat that has a limb too long, hear this, either a bull or a sheep or a goat that has a limb too long or too short, you may bring as a free will. So here, for a vow or a free will, we can use it for a free will, but we can't use it for the vow. He says, but for a vow it shall not be accepted. Well, that is completely saying right here, thou shalt not slaughter to Yehovah any sheep, any bull or sheep, any say, with any blemish or defect. Well, actually, that is a defect, isn't it? And he just said we could use it for that. Leg too short, leg too long. We see this often in the Torah. But none of our shalamim, just a normal shalamim, there is no caveat on that we can't use something. Part of the reason we're probably eating it is because it's got some kind of defect in it and we want to get rid of it from our flock and we're going to eat it. We're going to give it to Yehovah because he tells us not to eat it within our gates, or if we're going to eat it, slaughter it there. That way the priest is going to get the breast, the priest is going to get the leg. That's a blessing. And we're going to eat it. Yehovah is going to get the fat. And we're going to eat it, all who are clean in our family. Otherwise, if an animal has a defect, does that mean we never kill it? It just goes on breeding and breeding and breeding in our flocks? No, that's ridiculous. See, we got to understand Leviticus 17, where it's talking about slaughtering of animals and bringing those animals to Yehovah, to the place where he puts his name. Now, if the place is too far, we can just simply slaughter them like we would slaughter any wild animal. Put the blood on the ground, and in this case, because it wasn't brought to the altar of Yehovah, the clean and the unclean get to eat it. That's if we live too far away from the temple. Remember, if we slaughter for a vow, if we slaughter for a free will, we get an extra 2 days to eat it. We can eat it the first day, we can eat it the second day, but the third day it's got to be burned up. The shalamim's got to be eaten the first day. That's got to be much closer. Again, if it's too far, then you slaughter it in your gates. But again, we're talking about thou shalt slaughter it within thy gates that Yehovah has given thee. Well, let's move on to number 2. If there is found among thee within any of thy gates, which Yehovah thy Elohim gives thee. Remember, those are the gates which Yehovah thy Elohim gives thee. Gates that we didn't build, vineyards that we didn't plant, houses that we didn't build. Has that happened to anyone lately? No, but it's going to happen eventually. You find within thy gates a man or a woman who has been wicked in the sight of Yehovah thy Elohim in transgressing his covenant. What have they done? That's what it is in the next verse. Hara, wicked, the wicked. Hara. Ra is the word bad. The bad, the wicked, the wicked. Transgressing his covenant with you. They are within our gates. Either we, the Ezrach, deal with it, or the guilt is on us. Do you hear that? We have to take responsibility for the things that happen in our gates. The buck stops with the Ezra man. Your woman does something, the sin is on him. Your servant does something, the sin is on the master. Your children do something, the sin is on the father. And if you got a man or a woman within your gates serving other Elohim, how does it go? Has gone and served other Elohim and worshiped them. Or the sun, or the moon, or any host of heaven. Again, the translators translate the scriptures to sell Bibles, not to give you truth. They're not interested in giving you truth. They're interested in giving you what you want to hear. We've got to dig deeper. Transgressing his covenant. We don't want to transgress his covenant. But like I say, it's the man, the Ezra man, who has to deal with this situation. It's the Ezra man, who we saw in the last chapter, who appointed the judges and the officers within your gates to take some of the work off of him. Here's a wicked man or a woman in the sight of Yehovah thy Elohim and transgressing his covenant, and has gone, it says who, and has gone and served, here it is, has gone and served other Elohim. I always say Elohims. It's erroneous. It's other Elohim. It's plural. Other gods. Lawmakers and judges. And worshipped them. Served them and worshipped them. That says either the sun or the moon. Just by putting either, we get thrown off. Because now people, the average man, the average woman, says, oh, well, they're serving other Elohim and worshiping them. Either the sun or the moon. No, they don't understand. When it says serving other Elohim and worshiping them, we're talking about serving and following the Elohim of the land. Then it says, or the sun or the moon. Just because they say either, now we got an out, don't we? Well, I'm not serving the sun or the moon. No, but you're serving the Elohim of the land. Don't serve the other Elohim of the land. That's why we leave that kingdom and join ourselves to Yehovah. But what about a man or a woman who wants to serve and worship Lord Peor or Lord Jesus, Lord Yeshua? Same difference. Remember, this is Israel's seed that he's talking to. Israel's seed went through 40 years in the wilderness. They got circumcised when they crossed over. No, they didn't get circumcised just yet. They were going to get circumcised, but they went through 40 years. Ended up beating Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites. And then Balaam enticed them to eat meat slaughtered to other Elohim, to take their women for ourselves, and to worship Lord Peor, Baal Peor, Master Peor. And he killed every one of them who did. He's talking to Israel's seed. Again, we're so confused. We see you and we think it's us. We got to make ourselves the you. And we don't know how to do it because no one teaches kingdom. No one teaches about the Ger or the Ezrach. It's very difficult. You start getting these understandings and you start seeing the problems all over. But until you understand who the Ger and who the Ezrach are, you think you're the you. You see Elohims and then it says either instead of or. It's an excuse. It's a way out. It's what the translators do to keep you happy. Peace, peace, when there is no peace. And it is told thee, and thou hear of it, then thou shalt inquire diligently. And if it is indeed true, and certain that such an abomination has been committed in Israel, in thy gates, then thou shalt bring out to thy gates that man or woman who has committed that wicked thing, and thou shalt stone to death that man or woman with stones. This is how serious Yehovah is about having anybody in our gates who's going to lead us towards serving other Elohim. And yes, I'm talking about Jesus, Yeshua, or any man. We serve Yehovah. He is our only Elohim. And I say we, I'm talking about the Ezra men. Our women serve us. And when they serve us, they are serving Yehovah. Let's go to 6. Whoever is deserving of death shall be put to death on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. Oh, you know, this is really interesting. We talked about the witnesses are the ones who cast the first stones. We assume, because we live in a place, the United States, for most of us, that a woman can be a witness. I'm going to suggest that is an erroneous assumption. I'm going to suggest that women are not going to be witnesses and will not be counted as one of the 2 or 3 witnesses. You won't see this everywhere, but you will see this when you look line upon line throughout the scriptures. We've got to dig deeper. We've got to develop deeper understandings. I put up a blog this morning on Facebook. The fear of Yehovah leads to knowledge. Until we fear Yehovah more than we fear the Elohim of the land, we'll never gain knowledge. But that knowledge, when we start to get it, is going to lead us into understanding, and that understanding then is going to lead us into wisdom. But you will never get wisdom if you don't get understanding, and you won't get understanding if you don't get knowledge. And, like I said, you can't get knowledge if you don't have the fear of Yehovah. Verse 6. Whoever is deserving of death shall be put to death on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. This is what we're talking about. So here we have a man or a woman who has done something, led people to other Elohim, led people to worship the sun or the moon or any host of heaven, led people away and led them to do things that they would not normally do. He shall not be put to death on the testimony of 1 witness. The hand, this is 17:6. The hand of the witnesses shall be the first against him to put him to death, and afterwards the hands of all the people. Remember, ladies don't kill anything. They don't kill men, they don't kill animals, they don't do slaughters. The men do all that. So that would imply that the women are not the witnesses. But let's dig deeper. And afterwards, the hands of the people. Remember, the hands of the witnesses shall be the first against him to put him to death, and afterwards the hands of the people. So the witnesses throw the first stones. So thou shalt put away the evil from among thee. The people. You know, we see the people and we don't understand that it's men people. It's Ezra men people probably that we're talking about, though it may be the Ger that's involved in that as well. Remember, they're both males. Here's Deuteronomy 19 and Numbers. It says pretty much the same thing. 1 witness shall not rise against a man concerning any iniquity or any sin that he commits. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, the matter shall be established. Here's Numbers. Now you can see it. Whoever kills a person, the murderer shall be put to death on the testimony of witnesses. But 1 witness shall not be sufficient testimony against a person for the death penalty. That's Numbers 30. I put these witnesses are men, not women. Look at this. No woman is allowed to stone a man. That's my note. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not circulate a false report. Do not put thy hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. unrighteous witness. There's a term that we would use normally for men. It says, if a nephesh, who is a witness sworn to testify, shall sin by refusing to tell what he has seen. So here's a man who has seen something. He's a witness, but he refuses to testify. He's sworn to testify, but he says he refuses to tell what he has seen or heard concerning the matter. He must bear his evil, possibly even his punishment. And we see that, especially if you're going to bear false witness against somebody, and if it's found out, that you're going to get the judgment on you that it would have been on him. But let's continue. This is another verse, or this is same chapter, just a little further in the chapter. That was Leviticus 5. Here's Leviticus 5, 5, and 6. And it shall be, when he is guilty in any of these matters, that he shall confess that he has sinned in that thing, and he shall bring his trespass offering. Okay, here's a man who was a witness but refused to testify. Now he's realized, I did wrong. I was supposed to testify. I should have. I was afraid. Whatever. Now he's repenting. It says, he shall bring his trespass offering to Yehovah for his sin which he has committed. Okay, can a woman bring a trespass offering? No, we're talking about men. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. This is how we get to the truth. He says he shall bring a female from the flock, a lamb or a kid of the goats as a sin offering. So the priest shall make atonement for him concerning his sin. One witness shall not rise against a man. Hear that? One witness shall not rise against a man concerning any iniquity or any sin that he commits. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, the matter shall be established. If a false witness arises against any man to testify against him in wrongdoing, then the man. Did you hear that? It doesn't say the woman. It says then the men. This is the Enoshim. This is the plural form of Ish. Then the men in the controversy shall stand before Yehovah, before the priests and the judges who serve in those days, and the judges shall make careful inquiry. And indeed, if the witness is a false witness who has testified falsely against his brother, this is his akot, more ancient plural form, masculine form. It's a female, but it's ancient, so it's male. Then you shall do to him as he thought to have done to his brother. You shall do to him as he thought to have done to his brother. And you shall put away the evil from among you. So here's a man or men who were false witnesses. We're going to do to them what they were going to do to their brother. Again, we're talking about men. Enoshim, very revealing, the men in the controversy will stand before Yehovah. Okay, 17. The hands of the witnesses. Again, ladies, don't kill men. Not in war, not ever. They don't kill animals. Men kill the animals. Never talk about a lady doing a slaughter for their family. It's always the man who's doing the slaughter for the family. You know, we've got civilizations where lots of ladies are killing the animals for their families, but that's not the way it's supposed to be. Ezra people, and maybe Ger people, not lady people, servant people, or children people. Talking about who is going to put the bad person to death. The hands of the witness shall be the first against him to put him to death, and afterwards the hands of the people. And so you shall put away the evil from among, and so thou shalt put away the evil from among thee. Remember, we're still talking about people in our gates. Thy gates. Verse 8, new subject. And if a matter arises, which is too hard for thee to judge, you've got judges in your gates. You've got officers within your gates. But he says, if a matter arises, which is too hard for thee to judge, between degrees of, they put guilt and bloodshed. It doesn't say guilt and bloodshed. It just says bloodshed. Degrees of bloodshed. Between one judgment or another, or between one punishment or another. Matters of controversy within your gates. These are differing opinions between the judges and the gates, or the officers in your gates. Can't come to a unanimous decision, and so it's being kicked up to you, but you don't know. Maybe you do know, but if you don't know, what do? This is what this is about. Matters of controversy within thy gates. Then thou shalt arise and go up to the place which Yehovah thy Elohim chooses. The place where he puts his name. This is what we're talking about all the time. And thou shalt come to the priests, the Levites, and to the judge there in those days. The priests, the Levites, and the judge who are in those days. Number of people that we're going to come to. And they shall, it says, pronounce upon you. No. This is the Ezra man that's going there. And here, I put, no, not upon thee. The thee is the one seeking the correct judgment in the situation. It is for thee. That's what it says, for thee. For thee shall pronounce for thee the sentence of judgment. They're teaching us. Yo, that's interesting, teaching us this thing. Let's hold on to that thought. Here's what basic Bible in basic English, I guess is what it is. And come before the priests, the Levites, or before him who is judge at that time. And he will go into the question and give you a decision. Pronounce for you the sentence of judgment. And shall come to the priest, the Levites, and to the judge who is in those days, and shall inquire. And they shall declare to you the word of right ruling. You hear that? Now they're telling us what the right ruling is going to be. This is an educational process for us. Revised Version says similar thing. And thou shalt come unto the priests, the Levites, and unto the judge that is there in those days. And thou shalt inquire, and they shall show thee the sentence of judgment. Show thee. Now, they say, thou shalt do according to all the sentence which they pronounce. Again, New King James Version says, upon thee. Thou shalt do all that they pronounce upon thee. No, they're confused about who the pronoun is. This is not the man who's in the controversy. He's trying to deal with the one who's in his gates who's in this controversy. It's for thee. Here it is, for thee. That's what it says, for thee. They will teach. Okay, it says they will pronounce upon thee. No, it says, and they will teach thee. They will teach thee. They will teach thee in the place which Yehovah chooses. And thou shalt be careful to do according to all that they teach thee. They're going to use it twice. He goes on. According to the sentence of the law in which they instruct you. Now look, here's the same word that they were using above. Same word. This is the word right here. Yara. Teach. Instruct. According to the sentence of the law in which they instruct thee. See, now we got it right. Why do they got it wrong above? According to the judgments which they tell thee, thou shalt do. Thou shalt not turn aside to the right hand or to the left from the sentence which they, again they said, pronounce upon you, which they say for thee to do. Now, look what it says. This is still the same situation. He's going back. He's going to pronounce the sentence. Now the man, this is the wicked man. Again, we got to understand the pronouns. Now the man who acts presumptuously, in arrogance. It says, and will not heed the priest who stands to minister there before Yehovah thy Elohim, or the judge, that man shall die. So we bring back a judgment, and the man who receives the judgment, remember there was mixed feelings in our gates. Our judges didn't know, our officers didn't know, we didn't know. The Ezrach man didn't know in his own gates. He went to the city, talked to the priest, talked to the Levite, talked to the judge who was in at that time. Apparently there's one judge serving for a period of time. They gave us the judgment and brought it back, but now the man doesn't want to do it. Will not heed to the priest who stands to minister there before Yehovah thy Elohim, or the judge. It says, that man shall die. Doesn't want to do what they told him to do? He's going to pay the ultimate penalty for it. So you shall put away the evil from Israel. Certainly got rid of it in your gates, didn't you? But word's going to get around that that man was killed because he refused to do what the judge or the priest told him to do when they rendered their final judgment. It's like the Supreme Court. The man gets to go to the place where Yehovah puts his name and talk to people in the know, who know Torah. You know, there's safety in that. There's safety in that. These men are not men who are going to take a bribe. We don't know these men. They're simply hearing our case for us and rendering a good decision, a righteous decision for us. Gee, I've sure been in places where I'd like to have a righteous decision made for my part. Instead, I got judged according to the judgments and commandments of the people of the land. Those who take bribes, those who want to keep a woman away from their man. Ulterior motives. Building their own kingdom. But when Israel sees it and hears it, they get the fear of Yehovah. And it says that, so you shall put away the evil from Israel. Wow. And all the people, remember, we're not talking about lady people, we're talking about men people here. And all the people shall hear and fear and no longer act presumptuously. That word presumptuously was interesting. I had to go looking for other places where it was used. This is Numbers 15:30 through 31. But the person who does anything presumptuously, whether he is native born or a stranger, we're talking about a man person, native born or stranger. These are men, not ladies. That one brings reproach on Yehovah. You act presumptuously, either as a native born in Ezrach. We're talking about Ezrach and Ger right here. That one brings reproach on Yehovah. He shall be cut off from among his people because he has despised the word of Yehovah, broken his commandment. That person shall be completely cut off. His guilt shall be upon him. Well, isn't that exactly what happened here? The man acted presumptuously after he received the word of Yehovah, and he's going to get cut off. That man shall die. That person shall be completely cut off. His guilt shall be upon him. That's it happened. He acted presumptuously. All the people shall hear and fear. When you come into the land which Yehovah thy Elohim is giving thee, and possess it, and dwell in it, and say, I will set up a king over me. You know, these are not ladies that are saying this. This is men that are saying this. Like the nations that are all around me. Sound familiar? Sound like it finally did happen? Moses knew it would happen, apparently. It happened in Samuel 8, verse 1. Samuel chapter 8. Throughout. Let me just pull a couple verses out of it I thought were interesting. Then all the elders of Israel, the elders, we're talking about men people, aren't we? Gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, Samuel, look, you are old and your sons do not walk in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. I wonder if these men knew Torah, remembered what Moses has said, and said, when you come to the land which Yehovah thy Elohim is giving thee, and possess it and dwell in it, and say, I will set a king over me, like the nations that are all around me. Well, Moses, Yehovah, through Moses, is going to give us the precepts for that king. There's requirements that the king has to do if he's going to be over us. But maybe that's what's going on here. These men weren't all wrong. They were setting up a king over them because they were fed up with Samuel's sons. I forget what their names were, but they were rebellious, unrighteous men. What were they supposed to do? I guess just wait on Yehovah to give righteous men as positions of authority instead of those wicked men. It says, look, you are old and your sons do not walk in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. Did it displease Samuel because he was hurt for Yehovah? That's what I always assumed. Or was he upset because they didn't like his sons? Maybe a little bit of both, perhaps. Give us a king to judge us. So Samuel prayed to Yehovah, and Yehovah said to Samuel, heed the voice of the people to all that they say to thee. For they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. Oh man, we're so much better when we have Yehovah reigning over us. It goes on. And he said, this is the behavior of a king who will reign over thee. He will take thy sons, maybe it's you are at this point, reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for his own chariots and to be his horsemen, and some will run before his chariots. He will appoint captains over thousands and captains over 50s, and will set some to plow his field and reap his harvest, and to make his weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. These are all the things that he's taken your sons for, not your daughters for. Now he's going to tell you the things he's going to take your daughters for. And he will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields, your vineyards. Well, this might be thy. He will take the best of thy fields, thy vineyards, thy olive groves, and give them to his servants. He will take 1/10 of thy grain and thy vintage and give it to his officers and his servants. His tax is 1/10. Wow, we got a pretty good deal then, even with the king. Now we get taxed a whole lot more than that, of those of us who are being taxed. And he will take thy male servants, thy female servants, thy finest young men, and thy donkeys, and put them to work. He will take 1/10 of thy sheep, and thou wilt be his servants. He finishes up this way. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, no, but we will have a king over us, that we may also be like the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. This is exactly what they're talking about here. I will set a king over me, like all the nations. Here's the requirements for the king. He says, you shall surely set a king over thee. Thou shalt surely set a king over thee, whom Yehovah thy Elohim chooses. Well, we got problems already, don't we? We get a king from the nations, not from the brethren. Well, you know, what goes on in American politics or any nation's politics isn't Israel's people, isn't Yehovah's people. Those are the kings of Nimrod. The king whom Yehovah chooses always comes from among the brethren, the Ezra men. You know, we don't know who the brethren are. We don't know anything about Ezra or Ger. Edom always set a king over them who was not from among the brethren. Remember that? We saw that. They chose kings that were not from Esau. They chose kings from other lands. I guess they didn't have brethren. So they chose kings from other lands. That's what we do. How many times did you hear, even when Obama was in office, that he wasn't even American, he wasn't a U.S. citizen? Yeah, he wasn't a U.S. citizen, he was from another country. I mean, you hear things like that all the time. Certainly no American president has ever been from among the brethren. I know that. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. We've never had a king in the United States that's from the brethren. They don't rule like that. They don't rule again according to the statutes and judgments and ordinances. And it wouldn't happen. You shall set a king over you, one from among thy brethren. Thou shalt set as king over thee. Thou may not set a foreigner over thee. Someone you don't know. You don't put anybody you don't know over you, who is not thy brother. He goes on. Again, requirements of a king. But he shall not multiply horses for himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt to multiply horses. For Yehovah has said to thee, thou shalt not return that way again. This king is going to keep us under Yehovah's jurisdictional authority. Not going to let us go back to Egypt. Not going to let us corrupt our ways. Not go there, get horses for our strength. He goes on. Neither shall he multiply women for himself. This is Nashim. Nor shall he multiply to himself women, lest his heart turn away. Nor shall he greatly multiply silver and gold for himself. Also it shall be, when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write for himself a copy of this law in a book. Here's a better translation. This is Babylon Basic English. And when he has taken his place on the seat of his kingdom, he is to make a book. He is to make in a book a copy of the Torah, Ha-Torah, from that which the priests, the Levites, have in their care. Remember, all priests are Levites, but not all Levites are priests. And it shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life. This is something he's going to do at the beginning of his reign, apparently. And he's going to do it the rest of his life. Remember, he's going to be the king for the rest of his life. And it shall be with him and he shall read it the rest of his days, that he may learn to fear Yehovah his Elohim and be careful to observe all the words of this Torah and these judgments, that his heart may not be lifted up above his brethren, not sisterin, brethren. He rules over the brethren rule over their families. That he may not turn aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, and that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his sons. It doesn't say children, it says he and his sons in the midst of Israel. His sons are the ones who are supposed to carry out the rest of the kingdom. From his sons, the new king is going to come. So it's a continuation. But it starts with a man whom Yehovah chooses. He finally chose David. He started with Saul. Remember, I think Yehovah was putting up an interesting shadow picture with putting Saul first and then putting David, a man after his own heart. Remember, Saul was the big man, the tall man, the one who is head and shoulders above all the rest of the men in Israel. They made him king. But then Yehovah chose the lowest in his brother's house. David was the youngest of all his brothers. But he was a man after Yehovah's heart. And Yehovah said he looked at the heart and not the inside and not the outside. The heart and not the flesh. All right, 116, let's go to 18. Hebrew Roots Bible. The priests, the Levites, all the tribe of Levi shall have no portion or inheritance with Israel. They shall eat fire. They shall eat fire. Eat fire. The things that come from the fire of Yehovah, even his inheritance. That's Yehovah's inheritance. This is why we have a problem. You know, this is good. This is Deuteronomy. They have no portion, no part, nor inheritance. What comes to the fire is going to be their inheritance. The things that come to Yehovah are going to be their inheritance. But so much of Deuteronomy has got us eating the things that are going to go to the priests, got us eating the things that are going to go to the Levites. Ought not to be. I put the priests eat the kata'ah, the sin offering, their portion of the shalamim. Remember, they get the breast, they get the leg of the shalamim. They get the firstborn males from the herd and the flocks, the sheep and the goats. Their portion of the Levites' tithe from Israel's seed. Remember, the Levites get the 10th of Israel's seed, of all of Israel's produce, and the priests get 10% of what the Levites get. So all in all, the Levites are going to get 9/10 of Israel's seed's tithe. But again, we got a problem. So now look what it's going to say. Just a couple verses. Therefore they have no inheritance among their brethren. Yehovah is their inheritance, as he said to them. But now look what it says. And this shall be the priest's due from the peoples. From the people. Okay, what people are we talking about? We're talking about Israel. Israel. The Ger don't have land. The Ger don't have sheep. Certainly the servants don't have sheep or land. It's the Ezra men who have it. The people we're talking about is the Ezra. From those who offer a slaughter, whether it's a bull or a sheep. So remember, a sacrifice, they put sacrifice. It's not sacrifice, it's slaughter. This is what we're going to eat. This is what, when we bring, as a man brings a slaughter, what are the priests going to get? This says something that is wrong. Whether it's a bull or a sheep, remember, it's not a sheep. It's going to be a sheep or a goat. I put what happened to the shoulder and the breast. This is what they normally get, the shoulder and the breast. Now it's saying they shall give the priest the shoulder, the cheek, and the stomach. The shoulder, the cheek, and the stomach, the cheeks and the stomach. What are we talking about? Where does that even come from? Who said that? No, the priests get the shoulder and the breast. But the priests are supposed to get far more than what's listed here. Now they get a shoulder, 2 cheeks, and a stomach. Which stomach? This is stupid. Yeah, which stomach? They have 4 stomachs. Multiple stomachs. I think cows have 4. They get the whole of the sin offering minus the fat. They get everything that men give to Yehovah. Here, the first fruits of thy grain. They do get that. And the new wine and thy oil. The first fruits of the fleece of your flocks you shall give him. I don't remember ever seeing anything about the first of our flocks. First of a fleece of our flocks. What about the firstborn of the herd and the flock? Firstborn of your... I thought they said the first. No, it doesn't say the firstborn of the herd and the flock. But that's what they get. For Yehovah thy Elohim has chosen him out of all thy tribes to stand to minister in the name of Yehovah. Him and his sons. This says forever. It really says all the yomim. All the days is the word that they're saying there. I thought that was kind of neat to say it like that. All of the days to minister in Yehovah's name. Yeah, remember, they are his shalach, his sent ones. They're doing his will. The things that they pronounce, they're acting on his behalf. The priests are. They have awesome responsibility. So if a Levite comes from any of your gates, again, why are the Levites coming from our gates? So if a Levite comes from any of your gates, from where he dwells among all Israel, and comes with all the desire in his mind to the place which Yehovah chooses, then he shall serve in the name of Yehovah his Elohim, as all his brethren, the Levites, do. What's he doing in your gate? If he's supposed to be doing what all the rest of his brethren are to do, who stand before Yehovah's face. They shall have equal portions to eat. I thought, oh, interesting. Equal portions to eat. They shall have equal portions to eat. But then it says, besides what comes from the sale of his inheritance. Comes from the sale of his inheritance. What inheritance are we talking about? Equal portions to eat. How does a Levite get his food? We, Israel, bring to the Levite a tenth, our tithe, of the grain, of the trees, of the flocks. We bring him a tenth. Every tenth, every new one in our one, each year, he's going to get a tenth of that. Okay. Does it go to a Levite in particular, or does it go to the Levites, and then they give equal portions to eat, have equal portions to eat? That would make this verse make more sense. They shall have equal portions to eat. I've never really considered. Do we give our tithe to a specific Levite? Do we have specific Levites? Are there Levites who are assigned to specific tribes? And within those tribes, Levites who are responsible for certain families? Are there one Levite per 10 families? I guess that's what I've always kind of felt like there must have to be, so that we have somebody to go to. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a common pot. And all the Levites get something, but then, and they divide it evenly, because they're all serving before Yehovah. But what is this stuff besides which comes from the sale of his inheritance? What is that? It's very confusing. What does this even mean? Is he talking about what belongs to the priest? No, I think he's talking about the Levite. How do the Levites receive their portion? Portion of what? Where do the Levites live? But they have cities, gates of their own. Do they live in the gates of another man? That doesn't make any sense. I said that could have problems. I think conflict of interest. Remember, we had the one priest in the story that served a man, his family, for 10 shekels and a shirt each year. Well, he wanted his own Levites. No, there's a problem with having a Levite within your gates. Remember that the Levites are the priest's servants. Remember, Yehovah gave the Levites to the priests. Look what he says here. I just pulled up a couple verses. I want you to see these. He says, behold, this is Numbers 18. Behold, I myself have taken your brethren, the Levites, from among Israel's seed. They are a gift to you, the priests, given by Yehovah to do the work of the tabernacle of meeting, the tent of meeting. Here's two more. Now behold, I myself have taken the Levites from among Israel's seed, instead of every firstborn who opens the womb among Israel's seed. Therefore the Levites shall be mine. If the Levites are his, then they are also the priests. Because remember, what he gets, the priests get. And here's more evidence of that. And you shall give the Levites to Aaron. This is that same chapter. And you shall give the Levites to Aaron and his sons. They are given entirely to him from among Israel's seed. Is there certain Levites that are required to serve in the tabernacle at different times throughout the year? Or are they all every day coming from their cities to serve in the temple and to serve the priests? See, there's so much more that we need to understand. Here's somebody coming from somebody else's gate to do what he's supposed to do, finally, it sounds like. But what is the business about the sale of his inheritance? From the sale, besides what comes from the sale? I don't know. Again, it's Deuteronomy 9. When you come into the land, when thou comes into the land which Yehovah thy Elohim is giving thee, okay, that hasn't happened yet. Thou shalt not learn to follow the abominations of the nations. There shall not be found among you, now he's changing it to second person plural, there shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or who practices witchcraft, or a soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer. I wonder if that's, interprets omens. I hear people say, it's a sign! It's a sign! You know what? That's not how Yehovah works. It's a sign. A sorcerer, one who conjures spells. Here, let me see what my note says for these. I put Bohemian Grove. Oh my goodness. You shall not be found among you anyone who makes his sons pass through the fire. Bohemian Grove. This is a place, this is in California. And it's, if you look at the video here, it's on A Great Nation. This is on my blog. I talk about Bohemian Grove. Here, I'll show you. If I can show you, I might as well pull it up. I updated this link the other day. So all the videos should be working on it. It's the one at the very bottom. This is about 9/11. This is about money masters, why wars are created. I mean, there are some great videos on here about 9/11, a couple of them about 9/11. There's another one about 9/11. Tax system, Here's Bohemian Grove. Occult worship among the highest leaders. This is the Elohim of the land. This is presidents. This is senators. This is representative. This is past presidents. This is business people. This is actors, famous people that are coming together at this place, Bohemian Grove, and doing mock child sacrifice. Yeah, I said mock child sacrifice. This is what we're talking about. So what were we just reading? These are the leaders of our land, you guys! Your land, not my land. Who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, who practices witchcraft or soothsaying, or one who interprets omens or sorcerers, or who conjures spells or mediums, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. Different ways of doing it. They had other ways of translating this. Erdman's makes his son or daughter pass through the fire. Uses divination, a diviner, observer of times, a cloud gazer, an enchanter, a prognosticator, a witch, a sorcerer. You know, it's translated so many different ways. I'm not sure anybody really knows what all these are. There shall not be found among you anyone who lets his son or daughter pass through the fire, who uses divination, or observer of clouds, or a fortune teller, or a spellcaster. Here's this is talking about Saul and the witch of Endor. Remember, he went to see the witch of Endor to have her bring up Samuel's spirit for him. One who conjures spells, or medium, a spiritist, or one who calls the dead. Yeah, that's what she was doing, calling up the dead. For all who do these things are an abomination to Yehovah. And because of these abominations, Yehovah, thy Elohim, drives them out from before thee. Thou shalt be blameless before Yehovah, thy Elohim. We get rid of these people in our land. And thou come into the land, thou shalt not follow the abominations of the nations. Thou shalt be blameless before Yehovah thy Elohim, is the rest of that thought. For these nations which thou wilt dispossess, listen to soothsayers and diviners. You know, I was thinking about soothsayers and diviners. How about those who do polls? You know, they do the polls to kind of find out where people are thinking and what they're supposed to do and to please people. And interpret trends. Those people who interpret trends for the benefit of the Elohim so that they can give them the things that they want them to hear. And for their own agendas, of course. For these nations, which thou wilt dispossess, listen to soothsayers and diviners, poll makers, and interpret trends. But as for thee, Yehovah, thy Elohim has not appointed such for thee. No, we don't. Who's he going to appoint for thee? He's going to tell us. Yehovah, thy Elohim. Yehovah, thy Elohim will raise up for thee a prophet like me from thy midst. Remember, we were talking about a king in the last chapter. Now he's saying he's going to raise up from thee a prophet like me, like Moses, from thy midst, from thy brethren. Him you all shall hear. Ooh, when is that going to happen, Yehovah? Soon, I hope. According to all thou desired, Yehovah, thy Elohim, in Horeb, in the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of Yehovah, my Elohim. This is what we said. Oh, we don't want to hear Yehovah. You talk to him, Moses. We don't want to hear him. Nor let me see this great fire anymore, lest I die. But Yehovah said to me, what they have spoken is good. I will raise up for them a prophet. Here, contrast this with raising up a king. Now we're raising up a prophet. Like thee, I will raise up to them a prophet like thee. This is Yehovah talking to Moses. From among their brethren. And I will put my words in his mouth, and he will speak to them all that I command him. I think this is what's going to happen in the last days as Yehovah begins to raise up his servants throughout the world. We're scattered everywhere. This is Jeremiah 23, 1 through 4. Let's take a look at it. Woe to the shepherds who scatter and who destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture. You shepherds are destroying and scattering the sheep of Yehovah's pasture. This is what the pastors are doing right now. I was a man who went into the pasture often and said, what about this? This is what it says in the Torah. What about this? And what about this? You know what? He didn't want to hear what I had to say. He didn't want to hear my sincere questions. He wanted to answer according to the doctrines and traditions of men, and finally ended up putting me out of his church. Happened to 2 different churches, one to a Christian church and one to a Messianic church. No different. They don't want to hear truth. They don't want to hear about kingdom. They're busy making their own kingdom. Woe to you, shepherds! Therefore, thus says Yehovah, Elohim of Israel, against the shepherds who feed my people. You have scattered my flock, driven them away, and not attended to them. Behold, I will attend to you for the evil of your doings, says Yehovah. But now look what he says. But I will gather the remnant of my flock. You scattered them. I'm going to gather them. The remnant of my flock out of all the countries where I've driven them. And I will bring them back to their folds. When's that going to happen? He's going to raise up his 144,000-ish men. Where did he use that word? It's a New Testament word. But he's raising up his shepherds. I will set up shepherds. Bring them back to their folds. They will be fruitful and increase. How's he going to bring them back? I think he's going to put a pillar of fire over their heads. These are the men that Yehovah is raising up like Moses to lead his people. I will set up shepherds over them who will feed them. You're not feeding them. What do you think? Therefore it says Yehovah, Elohim of Israel, against the shepherds who feed my sheep. No, you're not feeding them. Driven them away. I will set up shepherds over them who will feed them. And they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, nor shall they be lacking. Oh, won't that be a glorious day? Fearing no more, not being dismayed, nor lacking. These are men who have lacked continually. They know shortage because they're trying to live in the world without being a part of that kingdom. It's hard to do. Let's go back. I will raise up for them a prophet like thee from among the brethren, and I will put my word in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. And it shall be that whoever will not hear my words, which he speaks in my name, I will require it of him. Who? You know what? Does your anxiety level go up as you hear something like this? It should. Only his words in his name, not Yeshua's name, Yehovah's name. They are going to be his shalakim, his sent ones. They are speaking for him. We better listen to what they have to say. But look what it says. It shall be that whoever will not hear my words, which he speaks in my name, Yehovah's name, I will require it of him. Now we have to ask ourselves, what if we don't know if it's him or not? It says, but the prophet who presumes to speak in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other Elohim, Yeshua, whoever, that prophet shall die. And if you say in your heart, how shall we know the word which Yehovah has not spoken? Remember, We don't want to not follow somebody who speaks in your name, but how do we know for sure if it's your word? He's going to tell us how to know for sure if it's his word. And you shall say in your heart, how shall we know the word which Yehovah has spoken? You know, I think as you begin to study Yehovah's word, gain the knowledge, gain the understanding, gain the wisdom, you begin to know the Father. You begin to say things like, Daddy doesn't talk like that. Daddy wouldn't say that. Because we know our Father. And if you say in your heart, how shall we know the word which Yehovah has not spoken? He says, when the prophet speaks in the name of Yehovah, if the thing does not happen or come to pass, that thing which Yehovah has spoken, the prophet has spoken it presumptuously. There's another presumptuous man. Thou shalt not be afraid of him. So here's a man that comes that speaks something that doesn't happen, that isn't true. We don't have to be afraid of him because it didn't happen. So here's my synopsis of this. A real prophet comes from among the brethren, the Ezrach. That's going to tell us one thing right there. He's going to come from among the brethren. How does he become a brethren? What's a brethren? The Ezra man. He speaks all that Yehovah commands. It will always agree with his word. He speaks only in Yehovah's name, not any other Elohim, not in the name of Yeshua, not in the name of anybody. Yehovah's name. What he says comes to pass. These guys that are talking about the eclipse that's coming on Monday being a sign of the end of the world and Revelation 12. Foolishness. Foolishness. Don't listen to them. What does he say? Numbers 15:30 says, but the person who speaks anything presumptuously, whether he is native born or a stranger, that one brings reproach on Yehovah, and he shall be cut off from among his people. Yes, we don't want to do anything presumptuously. All right, well, let's stop here. Next week, we'll start 19. Oh yeah, we're going to be talking about the cities of refuge. That's kind of an interesting topic. All right, well, hey, thank you for joining me today. We're making it through Deuteronomy. How many chapters we got in Deuteronomy here? 34. We're at 18. Just over halfway through. Deuteronomy gets better. It really does. There's a lot of perversion that I see in Deuteronomy, but there are some chapters that don't have as much perversion in them that are really very, very good. I don't want to be a naysayer. I don't want to knock Deuteronomy, but we have to be careful. We have to be discerning. Let's learn to be discerning of Yehovah's word. Let's learn to take things and study and show ourselves approved, rightly dividing the words of Yehovah. That's the kind of man I want to be. I want to know the way that he wants me to live, and I want to live that way. All right, well, I hope you do too. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you again next week. Bye now.